Elite snipers mocked her pink rifle, until the commander revealed she would lead the team. The scorching Moroccan desert sun beat mercilessly down on the NATO training facility. Golden dust danced in the thin air as 6 of the world's best elite snipers adjusted their equipment. These were men, forged in real combat. Afghanistan, Syria, Mali. Their faces were maps of scars and untold stories. Then she arrived, walking across the dirt track with a quiet confidence, carrying a customized rifle case, blonde hair pulled back in an impeccable military ponytail, blue eyes reflecting the cloudless sky, boots too clean, uniform too new, and when she opened the case, dead silence. The rifle was pink, not a subtle, camouflaged, or tactical pink. It was vibrant bubblegum pink with pearl white accents. It looked like it had come from a toy store, not a military arsenal. Sergeant Marcus. Reaper Donovan, a grizzled American sniper with 3 tours and 17 confirmed kills at over 200 meters, let out a sharp bark of laughter that echoed across the range. "You've got to be kidding me," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Barbie's here to play soldier." The others joined. Lieutenant Pierre Rousseau from the French Special Forces smirked and elbowed his British counterpart. "Is this some kind of publicity stunt? A photo op for diversity quotas?" Corporal Ahmed Hassan, Egyptian Army, shook his head in disbelief. "That thing belongs in a child's bedroom, not on a battlefield." Even Captain Klaus Weber, the stoic German who rarely spoke, allowed himself a thin smile of contempt. Pink, in the desert, might as well paint a target on her back. The woman, Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, according to her name tape, didn't react. She simply knelt beside her rifle case, methodically assembling her weapon with practiced, efficient movements. Her hands were steady. Her face was a mask of professional calm. But Reaper wasn't done. He strode over, his shadow falling across her workspace. "Listen, sweetheart," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I don't know what strings you pulled to get on this team, but this is a serious operation. Lives depend on precision, discipline, and experience. This isn't some Instagram photo shoot." Sarah looked up at him, her blue eyes cool and unreadable. "Is there something specific about my equipment that concerns you, Sergeant?" "Your equipment?" Reaper scoffed. "That toy you're assembling concerns me. The fact that Command sent us a rookie with 0 combat deployments concerns me. The fact that you think showing up with a pink rifle is somehow cute or empowering concerns me." He leaned down, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper meant to intimidate. "When bullets start flying and real men are counting on their partners, I need to know the person next to me isn't going to freeze, cry, or get us all killed because she wanted to make a statement." Sarah held his gaze for a long moment. Then she returned to assembling her rifle without a word. Across the range, Major Viktor Sokolov, the Russian observer who had seen more combat than all of them combined, watched the exchange with narrowed eyes. He said nothing, but something in the woman's posture, in her deliberate calm, sparked a memory he couldn't quite place. The training briefing began at 0900 hours sharp, in a sweltering corrugated metal building that served as the operations center. Colonel James Hartley, a British SAS veteran with a face like weathered granite, stood at the front beside a large tactical map. "Gentlemen," he began, then caught himself. "And Lieutenant Mitchell, welcome to Operation Desert Phantom. You 6 have been selected from your respective Special Forces units because you represent the best long-range precision shooters the Alliance has to offer." He clicked a remote, and the map zoomed in on a compound in the Sahara. "Your target is Hassan al-Khoury, a high-value arms dealer supplying terrorist cells across North Africa. Intelligence indicates he'll be at this compound in 72 hours for a weapons transaction. The shot distance is approximately 1,847 meters. Extreme range. Extreme conditions." Reaper raised his hand. "Sir, with all respect, you said 6 shooters. I count 7 personnel here." The colonel's expression didn't change. "Your observation is correct, Sergeant Donovan. However, Lieutenant Mitchell is not the sixth member of your team. Confusion rippled through the room. Pierre frowned. Then why is she here, sir? Colonel Hartley's next words dropped like a bomb. Because Lieutenant Mitchell will be leading this operation. The room exploded. What? Reaper shot to his feet, his chair clattering backward. Sir, you cannot be serious. She's a lieutenant. I'm a senior NCO with actual combat experience. This is insane, Klaus muttered, his usual composure cracking. Ahmed shook his head in disbelief. We're supposed to follow someone who carries a pink rifle into a hostile zone? Only Victor remained silent, his eyes fixed on Sarah with intense curiosity. Colonel Hartley's voice cut through the chaos like a whip crack. Enough! The room fell silent. Sergeant Donovan, you will address me with respect, or you will be removed from this operation and face disciplinary action. Am I clear? Reaper's jaw clenched. Crystal clear, sir. But I request an explanation. What possible qualification does she have to lead this team? The colonel looked at Sarah, who sat quietly in the back row, her expression unchanged. Lieutenant Mitchell, would you care to address the team's concerns? Sarah stood slowly. When she spoke, her voice was soft, but carried an edge of steel. I understand your skepticism, gentlemen. You see the pink rifle and make assumptions. You see my age and assume inexperience. You look at me and see a liability. She walked to the front of the room, her movements deliberate. What you don't see is my record. What you don't see are the 3 years I spent in classified operations you'll never read about in any official report. What you don't see is why I'm standing here. Reaper crossed his arms. Then enlighten us, Lieutenant. What makes you so special? Sarah's blue eyes locked onto his. 2 years ago, Operation Valkyrie, northern Syria. A hostage rescue mission gone sideways. 6 ISIS fighters holding 2 aid workers in a compound. Overwatch sniper position 1,643 meters out. Night conditions. High wind. The first shooter missed. The second shooter missed. Hostages were about to be executed on camera. The room had gone completely quiet. I made 6 shots in 47 seconds, 6 targets, 6 eliminations, perfect headshots in near-zero visibility with a 15-knot crosswind. The hostages walked out alive. The mission was never officially acknowledged. She paused, letting the information sink in. As for the rifle, it was a gift from my little sister before she died of leukemia 3 years ago. She painted it herself and told me it would help me stand out, help me be remembered. So I had it professionally coded and I use it in her honor. It's 0 to 0.1 mil precision. At 2,000 meters, it's taken more confirmed kills than any weapon in this room. The silence was deafening. Pierre was the first to speak, his voice quiet. Operation Valkyrie. I heard rumors. They said it was a ghost shooter. No one knew who made those shots. Sarah nodded once. Now you know. Colonel Hartley stepped forward. Lieutenant Mitchell holds the NATO record for longest confirmed kill at 2,214 meters. She has 43 confirmed eliminations across classified operations in 4 theaters. She's also the only person in this room who has successfully completed a solo deep reconnaissance sniper mission, lasting 18 days behind enemy lines. He looked directly at Reaper. She's not here because of diversity, Sergeant. She's here because when the impossible shot needs to be made, she's the one who makes it. And in 72 hours, you're all going to witness. Exactly why. The training exercises began at dawn the next morning. The course was brutal by design, a series of increasingly difficult shots across the desert terrain, simulating the actual mission conditions. Targets ranged from 800 to 1,900 meters, placed in positions that required compensation. For wind, heat mirage, elevation changes, and the curvature of the Earth itself, Reaper went first. He was good. Everyone had to admit that. His shots were clean, precise, methodical. He hit 7 out of 10 targets, respectable for the conditions. Klaus went next. The German was a machine, his IUE breathing controlled, his form textbook perfect. 8 out of 10. Pierre, Ahmed, and the sixth team member, Staff Sergeant Chen from the Chinese Special Forces, each performed admirably. 7, 8, and 7 hits respectively. Victor, the Russian observer, declined to participate. "I am here only to watch," he said in his thick accent. But his eyes never left Sarah. Then it was Sarah's turn. She approached the firing line with her pink rifle, and despite the morning's revelations, Reaper couldn't suppress a derisive snort. "Let's see if the Barbie gun actually works," he muttered to Pierre. Sarah settled into position. Her movements were different from the others, less rigid, more fluid. She didn't fight her environment. She seemed to melt into it. Her breathing slowed. Her body went perfectly still. The first shot broke the morning silence. Target 1 at 823 meters, direct hit, center. Mass. She worked the bolt smoothly, chambered another round. No hesitation, no recalculation. Target 2 at 1,104 meters, direct hit. Target 3 at 1,287 meters, partially obscured by a rock formation, direct hit. By target 5, the mockery had died completely. The men stood in stunned silence, watching through spotting scopes as each pink tracer found its mark with mechanical precision. Target 8 was at 1,756 meters, placed behind a heat shimmer that made it dance and waver through the scope. The wind had picked up to 12 knots, gusting unpredictably. It was a shot designed to be nearly impossible. Sarah adjusted her position minutely. Her finger rested on the trigger for what seemed like an eternity, waiting, reading the wind like a language only she understood. The shot cracked across the desert. 3 seconds later, the time it took for the bullet to travel nearly a mile. The distant target exploded in a cloud of orange paint. "Jesus Christ," Ahmed whispered. Target 9, 1,143 meters, direct hit. Target 10, 1,901 meters, the furthest target on the range, a tiny silhouette barely visible even through high-powered optics. Sarah's breathing stopped. The world seemed to hold its breath with her. The pink rifle barked once more. The spotters watched the bullets arc through their scopes, tracking its impossible journey across the shimmering desert. It seemed to hang in the air forever, defying physics, defying probability. Impact. Perfect center mass. To 10. For 10. Sarah stood, ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, and slung the rifle across her back. She walked past the stunned group without a word, heading toward the water station. Colonel Hartley's voice carried across the range. "Gentlemen, I believe that concludes this morning's demonstration. Briefing at 1300 hours dismissed." In the mess tent at lunch, the atmosphere had shifted. The open mockery was gone, replaced by a wary, grudging respect mixed with wounded pride. Reaper sat with Klaus and Pierre, pushing food around his tray. 10 for 10, he muttered. "In those conditions, that's not luck." "No," Klaus agreed quietly. "That is skill at the highest level." Pierre leaned forward, his voice low. "I made some calls, checked with some DGSE contacts who owe me favors. Operation Valkyrie wasn't the only mission. There's a legend in the community. They call her Pink Death. Insurgents in 3 countries have stories about a ghost sniper with a pink rifle. They think she's not real. They think she's a myth we created to scare them." Chen, who had been silent, spoke up. "In our intelligence briefings, there are reports of a Western female sniper operating in regions where officially no women are deployed in combat roles. Confirmed kills at ranges that seemed impossible. We thought the reports were exaggerated propaganda." Reaper's jaw tightened. His pride was wounded, but he was a professional. Facts were facts. "She's the real deal," he admitted. "But that doesn't mean I have to like taking orders from someone half my age who shows up looking like she's going to a shooting competition instead of a war zone." "Your problem, Sergeant," a voice said from behind him, heavily accented but clear, "is that you see with your ego, not your doom." They turned to find Viktor Sokolov standing there, his weathered face serious. The Russian pulled up a chair without invitation and sat down. "I know who she is," Viktor continued. 3 years ago, I was in Syria, leading a Spetsnaz element providing overwatch for a convoy evacuation. We came under fire from ISIS fighters positioned in buildings 1,400 meters away. We were pinned down, taking casualties. Our sniper was hit in the first volley. He paused, his eyes distant with memory. Then, from somewhere we could not locate, the enemy positions began to go silent. One by one. Precise. Professional. 6 fighters eliminated in less than 1 minute. We never saw the shooter, never knew who saved my men that day. Victor looked directly at Reaper. Later I saw the after-action reports. 6 ISIS fighters, 6 headshots, 47 seconds. I knew then that I had witnessed something extraordinary. I have been a soldier for 28 years, Sergeant Donovan. I have seen the best shooters Russia has ever produced. And I am telling you, that woman is not just good. She is once in a generation. The table was silent. The rifle, Victor added, is pink because she wants you to underestimate her. She wants the enemy to dismiss her, and by the time they realize their mistake, they are already dead. He stood up. You would be wise to learn this lesson now, before it costs lives on the actual mission. He walked away, leaving the team members staring at their food. That afternoon's briefing was different. The hostility had evaporated, replaced by professional curiosity and a dozen questions about tactics, equipment, and mission protocol. Sarah stood at the front beside Colonel Hartley, a laser pointer in her hand, walking them through the operational plan, with the confidence of someone who had done this many times before. The compound has 3 potential firing positions, she explained, highlighting areas on the satellite imagery. Position Alpha gives us 1,947 meters to target, but requires us to cross 2 kilometers of open desert with minimal cover. Position Bravo is 1,923 meters, harder shot but better approach concealment. Which position do you prefer, Lieutenant? Klaus asked, his tone now genuinely respectful. Neither, Sarah replied. Position Charlie, 2,104 meters, extreme range, but it provides us a wadi for approach, natural, rock cover, and multiple exfil routes. It also puts the sun at our backs during the optimal firing window. Reaper frowned, studying the map. That's beyond the effective range of most of our weapon systems. Yes, Sarah agreed, which is why only 2 of us will take the shot. I'll be primary. I need a spotter who can read wind at that distance. She looked directly at Reaper. Sergeant Donovan, I want you. The room went quiet. Reaper's eyebrows shot up. Me? Why? Because despite your attitude problem, your performance scores show you're the best wind reader on this team. You calculated. That 1,156-meter shot this morning within 0.2 mils of my own calculations. I checked your spotting notes. She held his gaze. I need the best person for the job. That's you. It was an olive branch, extended with tactical reasoning instead of emotion. Professional respect earned through competence. Reaper studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Understood, ma'am. I'm your spotter. The rest of you, Sarah continued, will be positioned at overwatch points Alpha 2 and Bravo 3, providing security and backup. If I miss, which I won't, you'll have secondary shots prepared. Chen, you'll coordinate our exfil. Klaus, you're on enemy movement tracking. Pierre, Ahmed, you're our early warning system. She clicked to the next slide. We insert at 0300 hours via helicopter, 12 kilometers from the compound. We hump in on foot, establish position by 1100 hours, and wait. Target is expected to arrive between 1400 and 1600 hours. We take the shot when we have positive ID and optimal conditions. Questions? Ahmed raised his hand. What's the wind reading looking like for that time of day at that range? Variable 8 to 14 knots, gusting. Heat mirage will be severe. Bullet flight time approximately 3.8 seconds, which means we need to account for target movement. Sarah's voice was clinical, precise. At that range, I'm not shooting where he is. I'm shooting where he's going to be 4 seconds from now. Pierre let out a low whistle. That's predicting the future. No, Sarah corrected. That's math, observation, and experience. The mission launched at 0300 hours under a moonless sky. The helicopter's rotors beat against the cold desert air as the team sat in tense silence, each member running through mental checklists. Sarah sat near the open door, her pink rifle secured across her lap, her eyes closed in meditation or prayer. No one could tell which. Reaper sat across from her, studying her face. 24 hours ago, he'd been ready to demand her removal from the team. Now, his life and the lives of his teammates depended on her skill. Dicta. Cognitive dissonance was uncomfortable. 60 seconds, the loadmaster shouted over the rotor noise. Sarah's eyes opened. She met Reaper's gaze and gave him a single, slight nod. A warrior's acknowledgement. He found himself nodding back. The helicopter flared, hovering 3 feet above the desert. Floor. The team fast roped down in practice sequence, their boots hitting sand within seconds of each other. The moment the last man touched ground, the helicopter banked hard and disappeared into the darkness, its noise fading to nothing within a minute. Silence. Vast, oppressive desert silence, broken only by the whisper of wind across sand. Sarah activated her night vision and checked her GPS. We have 11.3 kilometers to cover. We move in tactical column. I'll take point. Reaper, you're with me. The rest of you spread out at 50-meter intervals. Radio silence unless... Contact. Let's move. They moved like ghosts across the desert landscape. Sarah set a punishing pace, not running, but a steady ground-eating walk that covered distance efficiently while minimizing fatigue. She navigated around exposed areas, using wadis and rock formations for concealment even. Though there was no one to hide from. It was instinct, muscle memory from missions no one in this group would ever read about. 3 hours in, Klaus's voice crackled in their earpieces. Hold position, movement, 11 o'clock, approximately 400 meters. The team melted into whatever cover was available. Sarah dropped behind a cluster of rocks, her rifle already up, scanning through her scope. Through the green glow of night vision, she saw them. A nomadic herder with 3 goats, moving slowly across the desert, completely oblivious to the lethal team hidden in the darkness around. Civilian, Sarah whispered into her mic. Non-threat. We wait for him to pass. They waited. 15 minutes. 20. The old man moved with infuriating slowness, his goats stopping to nibble at scrub brush that somehow survived in this wasteland. Reaper shifted beside her, impatient. Sarah placed a hand on his arm. Patience, she whispered. We have time. Finally, the herder and his animals disappeared over a ridge. The team resumed movement. They reached position Charlie at 10:47 hours, ahead of schedule. The location was perfect, a rocky outcropping that provided natural cover and an elevated position overlooking the target compound 204 meters away. Below them, a wadi offered a concealed approach and multiple escape routes. Sarah and Reaper established their shooting position while the others moved to their assigned overwatch locations, spreading out to create a defensive perimeter. The compound came into sharp focus through Sarah's scope. It was a collection of low, sand-colored buildings arranged around a central courtyard. 2 armed guards visible on the roof, several vehicles parked inside the walls. No sign yet of the target. Range 104 meters, Reaper confirmed, checking his laser rangefinder. Wind currently 9 knots south-southeast. Temperature 31 Celsius and climbing. Humidity 12%. Sarah made minute adjustments to her scope. Confirmed. We settle in and wait. Waiting is the hardest part of any sniper mission. The human body wants to move, wants to fidget, wants to relieve discomfort. But movement means detection, and detection means death. Sarah became part of the rock. Her breathing slowed, her heartbeat steadied. She entered a state of hyper-awareness that combat snipers call the zone, completely present, completely focused yet somehow removed from physical discomfort. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, turning the desert into a furnace. Heat shimmered off the sand, making the compound waver like a mirage. Sweat trickled down Sarah's face, but she didn't move to wipe it away. Reaper, despite his years of experience, found himself impressed by her absolute stillness. He'd seen good snipers before. He'd worked with legends. But this woman had a quality he'd only encountered once or twice in his career, a complete unity of purpose and action that bordered on the supernatural. At 13:27 hours, Pierre's voice came through the earpiece. Multiple vehicles approaching from the north, 3 Toyota Hilux trucks, armed personnel visible. "Copy," Sarah replied without moving. "Everyone stay frosty. This could be our target." Through her scope, she watched the vehicles approach the compound. The gates opened. Men climbed out, 7, 8, 9 total, heavily armed, moving with the confidence of professionals. "Scanning for primary target," Sarah murmured. "Reaper, vehicle 3, passenger side, gray dish dasha, black vest. Can you confirm facial recognition?" Reaper adjusted his spotting. Scope, zooming in on the man Sarah had identified. He pulled up a photo on his tablet and compared features. "Negative. That's not Al-Khoury. Similar build, but wrong facial structure." "Agreed," Sarah said. "These are advanced security. Target hasn't arrived yet." Another hour crawled by. The Yadi temperature hit 42 degrees Celsius. Inside their ghillie suits and tactical gear, it was nearly unbearable. At 14:43 hours, Chen's voice. "Second convoy approaching. 4 vehicles. This looks bigger." Sarah's finger moved to rest lightly on her trigger. "All stations, weapons hot. Prepare. Engagement on my mark." The new convoy entered the compound with much more ceremony. Guards rushed to open doors. Men in expensive suits emerged from the center vehicle. And then, him, Hassan Al-Khoury. The photographs didn't do him justice. He was bigger in person, moving with the arrogance of a man who believed himself untouchable. Diamond-studded watch caught the sunlight, perfectly tailored clothes, a smile on his face as he greeted the waiting security team. "Target confirmed," Reaper said quietly. "Center courtyard. I have positive ID." Sarah's breathing slowed even further. The world narrowed to just her, the rifle, and the target 2,004 meters away. Wind? 11 knots, gusting to 14. South-southeast, steady. Temperature? 42.3 Celsius. Sarah made microscopic adjustments. At this range, everything mattered. The rotation of the earth mattered. The density of the air mattered. The beating of her own heart mattered. Al-Khoury moved toward the building entrance, surrounded by bodyguards. In 30 seconds, he would be inside, and the window would close. "Wind call," Sarah whispered. Reaper watched the heat waves, watched the distant flags on the compound, watched dust patterns. His entire career had led to this moment, reading the invisible, predicting the unpredictable. Steady at 12 knots. Hold, dropping to 10. Now, you have a 3-second window. Sarah's finger tightened on the trigger. She wasn't aiming at where Al-Khoury was. She was aiming at a point in empty space where he would be in 3.8 seconds, accounting for his walking speed, his direction, the wind that would push her bullet, the drop from gravity, the spin of the earth beneath the bullet's flight path. It was impossible mathematics performed by instinct and experience. The pink rifle barked once. The sound echoed across the empty desert. For 3.8 seconds, the bullet traveled at 2,800 feet per second, across more than a mile of superheated air. Sarah didn't move, didn't breathe, simply watched through her scope. Al-Khoury took 2 more steps. Then his head snapped back violently, a pink mist erupting from the exit wound. His body crumpled like a puppet with cut strings. "Target down," Reaper confirmed, his voice steady despite the awe in his chest. "Clean kill." Chaos erupted in the compound. Men shouted, scrambled, reached for weapons. They had no idea where the shot came from. No idea which direction to look. A death had arrived from the heavens themselves. "All stations, begin exfil," Sarah commanded, her voice calm. "Tactical withdrawal to Rally Point Alpha. We move now." The team collapsed their positions with practiced efficiency. Within 90 seconds, they were moving down the wadi, putting distance between themselves and the compound. Behind them, the confused shouts of Al-Khoury's men faded into nothing. They reached the extraction point at 1847 hours, exhausted but intact. The helicopter was already waiting, rotors turning. As they loaded up, Reaper grabbed Sarah's arm. "That shot," he said, having to shout over the helicopter noise. "That was the best piece of shooting I've ever seen in my life." Sarah looked at him, and for the first time she smiled. A genuine, warm smile. "Thank you, Sergeant, and thank you for the wind call. I couldn't have made it without you." As the helicopter lifted off, carrying them away from the desert and back toward civilization, Reaper found himself looking at the pink rifle secured between Sarah's knees. It no longer looked ridiculous, it looked like exactly what it was. A precision instrument wielded by a master craftsman, a weapon of legend. The debriefing room at NATO headquarters was packed. Word had spread about the mission's success, and now a dozen high-ranking officers sat around the table, wanting details. Colonel Hartley stood at the front. Operation Desert Phantom was a complete success. Target eliminated at 2,104 meters in adverse conditions. 0 collateral damage, 0 friendly casualties. Textbook execution. A British general leaned forward. "I'm told the shot was made by Lieutenant Mitchell. Is that correct?" "Affirmative, sir," the colonel replied. The general's eyes found Sarah in the back of the room. "Stand up, Lieutenant." Sarah rose to attention. "That's the longest confirmed kill shot by a NATO sniper in active operations," the general said. "Exceptional work." Reaper, sitting beside her, stood as, "Well, sir, if I may, Lieutenant Mitchell's skill was crucial, but this was a team effort. Every member performed flawlessly." The general nodded approvingly. "Noted, Sergeant." He looked back at Sarah. "Lieutenant, I understand there was some initial resistance to your leadership." Sarah's expression didn't change. "There were concerns, sir. Understandable given the circumstances, but the team performed professionally when it mattered." "Diplomatic answer," the general said with a slight smile. "Sergeant Donovan, I'm told you were among the skeptics. Care to comment?" Reaper's jaw tightened, but he met the general's eyes. "Sir, I judged her based on appearances rather than capability. That was my failure as a professional. I was wrong, and I learned a valuable lesson. Lieutenant Mitchell earned my respect through her actions, not her words. She's the best sniper I've ever worked with." 6 months later, a different desert, a different mission. Sarah sat in a briefing room in Djibouti, reviewing intel on a hostage situation in Somalia. 12 aid workers held by Al-Shabaab militants in a compound. The rescue window was closing fast. The door opened. Reaper walked in, followed by Klaus, Pierre, and Chen. They'd requested assignment to her unit after Desert Phantom. Victor had even delayed his retirement to serve as their senior advisor. "Heard you had something interesting," Reaper said, dropping his gear bag. 6 months of working together had transformed their relationship. He was still gruff, still opinionated, but now it came from a place of mutual respect. Sarah smiled slightly. "Hostage rescue. Difficult approach, limited time, and the shooting positions are terrible. Interested?" "With you in charge?" Klaus said, settling into a chair. "Always." They spent the next 4 hours planning. Sarah listened to every suggestion, incorporated the good ideas, challenged the weak ones. She'd learned that leadership wasn't about being the smartest person in the room. It was about making the room smarter together. At one point, Pierre studied the satellite imagery and shook his head. "This shot, it's 2,340 meters over urban terrain with unpredictable winds. This is beyond extreme range." Sarah traced the route with her finger. "It's at the edge of possibility, but possible is all we need." Reaper looked at her pink rifle, now worn from use, the coating scratched and faded in places. "You're going to try it." "We're going to try it," she corrected. "I need your eyes on this, Reaper. All of you. This isn't a solo mission." Victor, observing from the corner, spoke up in his gravelly voice. In Russia, we have saying, the bullet may fly alone, but it carries the hands of many. He looked at the team. This is good, team. Maybe the best I have seen. The mission launched at dawn. The approach was harrowing, crawling through rubble-strewn streets while militants patrolled nearby. They reached position with only minutes to spare before the hostages were scheduled to be moved to a secondary location. Sarah settled behind her rifle. Through her scope, she could see the compound, could see the hostages bound and terrified, could see the militant commander pacing, checking his watch. Range to 340 meters, Reaper confirmed. Wind 18 knots. Variable, multiple obstructions in the bullet path. Boss, this is almost impossible. Almost, Sarah agreed. Her voice was calm, centered. But we've done impossible before. Pierre called out elevation data. Klaus tracked enemy movements. Chen coordinated with the assault team standing by for breach. Victor watched everything, his experienced eyes missing nothing. The team functioned like a single organism, each member contributing vital information, trusting completely in the others. Wind shift, Reaper called, dropping to 15, 14. Steady. Sarah's world contracted. Her heartbeat slowed to a crawl. She saw the shot not as distance in mathematics, but as certainty, as inevitability. Send it, Reaper whispered. The pink rifle spoke. 4.2 seconds. The bullet crossed half a mile of chaotic urban air, threaded between buildings, compensated for wind that tried to push it off course. The militant commander's head snapped back. He fell. Target down, Reaper confirmed. Assault team, you are clear for breach, Sarah commanded into her radio. 30 seconds later, the assault team stormed the compound. The remaining militants, shocked and disorganized by their commander's impossible death, surrendered quickly. All 12 hostages were recovered alive. 2 years after that mission, Sarah stood in the same briefing room where she'd first been mocked. But this time, she wasn't the one being briefed. She was the one doing the briefing. In front of her sat 20 new sniper candidates from 6 nations, men and women, young and eager, representing the next generation of elite shooters. Among them were faces of every color, every background. What united them was skill, determination, and the hunger to be the best. My name is Captain Sarah Mitchell, she began. Some of you may have heard stories about me, about a pink rifle, about impossible shots, about a team that accomplished missions people said couldn't be done. She paused, letting her eyes sweep across the room. I'm here to tell you that everything you've heard is both true and irrelevant. Confused looks. She smiled slightly. Yes, I made those shots. Yes, my team succeeded. But not because I'm special. Not because of some innate gift or divine intervention. She walked to the front of her desk and sat on the edge, her posture relaxed but authoritative. I succeeded. Because I was underestimated, and I turned that underestimation into an advantage. I succeeded because I found a team that learned to look past their assumptions. And I succeeded because I never, ever let someone else's limited vision define what I was capable of. She picked up her pink rifle from the desk, now a legendary weapon, written about in military journals, displayed in photographs across the special operations community. The pink coating was heavily worn now, scratched and faded from dozens of missions across 4 continents. This rifle represents something important, not just my sister's memory, though that's sacred to me. It represents the choice to be visible, to refuse to disappear, to make people confront their assumptions before the trigger is even pulled. A young female lieutenant in the front row raised her hand. Captain, weren't you afraid that standing out would make you a target? Terrified, Sarah admitted honestly. Every single mission, but I learned something crucial. Being afraid and being capable are not mutually exclusive. Fear keeps you sharp. It's when you stop being afraid that you make fatal mistakes. A male sergeant near the back spoke up, his voice skeptical but not hostile. With respect, ma'am, some of us have heard that the pink rifle thing is a publicity stunt. That command uses you for recruiting and diversity optics. Sarah didn't flinch. That's a fair question, Sergeant. And yes, Command absolutely uses me for recruiting. They should. Representation matters. But here's what they can't fake and what no amount of publicity can manufacture. She pulled up a screen showing her confirmed kill record, mission success rates, and peer evaluations. The numbers were staggering. 58 confirmed eliminations, 42 successful missions, 0 team casualties under my command. These aren't participation trophies, Sergeant. These are results earned in the deadliest environments on Earth against enemies who would have loved nothing more than to prove the girl with the pink rifle was all hype. She clicked to another image, a photo of her team. Reaper, Klaus, Pierre, Chen, Ahmed, Victor. Hardened warriors standing together, weapons ready, trust evident in their body language. These men didn't follow me because of diversity quotas. They followed me because when bullets fly and lives hang in the balance, I deliver every single time. The room was silent, absorbing her words. Sarah's expression softened. But here's what I really want you to understand. Every person in this room will face doubt. From others, from yourselves. You'll be told you're too young, too old, too female, too male, too inexperienced, too unconventional. You'll be judged before you ever take a shot. She set the rifle down gently. Your job isn't to prove them wrong with words. It's to prove them wrong with results so undeniable that doubt becomes irrelevant. Sergeant Donovan thought I was a liability. Now he's one of my closest teammates and recommended me for promotion. That transformation didn't happen through argument. It happened through demonstrated excellence. Reaper himself stepped into the room at that moment, right on cue. He'd been listening outside. "She's right," he said, his voice carrying across the space. 2 years ago, I thought her pink rifle was a joke. I thought putting her in charge was political correctness gone mad. I was loud about it. I was wrong about it. And I'm man enough to admit it publicly. He walked to stand beside Sarah. Captain Mitchell taught me that excellence has no gender, no color, no expected appearance. Excellence is simply the relentless pursuit of perfection in your craft, regardless of what anyone thinks. He looked at the young faces staring at them. Some of you will wash out of this program. Most of you, actually. The standards are brutal, because the missions are brutal. But those who make it, you'll earn a place on teams where your capability is the only currency that matters. Sarah nodded. This training program is designed to break you, to expose every weakness, to force you past every limit you thought you had. Gender won't save you. Politics won't save you. The only thing that will save you is skill, determination, and the willingness to be forged in fire. She stood up, her command presence filling the room. You're going to hate me by the end of this. You're going to curse my name. You're going to wonder why you ever volunteered. And if you make it through, if you earn that graduation certificate, you'll understand that I pushed you hard, because lives will depend on you being that hard. A young private, barely 20, raised his hand tentatively. Captain, how do you deal with the pressure, knowing that if you miss, people die? Sarah's expression became distant for a moment, remembering missions, remembering the weight of those decisions. You embrace it, Private. That pressure is a gift. It means what you're doing matters. It means lives are being saved because you're good at your job. The day that pressure stops feeling heavy is the day you need to find a different profession. She walked along the front row, making eye contact with each candidate. In 72 hours, your training begins. You'll be pushed physically, mentally, emotionally. You'll question everything, your skills, your choices, your worth. In those moments, remember why you're here. Remember the people counting on you to be excellent. Sarah stopped in front of the young female lieutenant. And for those of you who will face additional scrutiny because of who you are, use it. Let them underestimate you. Let them doubt. And then let your shot speak louder than their assumptions ever could. She returned to the front of the room. Class dismissed. Report to the range at 0500 tomorrow. Bring your A game because I'm bringing mine. Epilogue. The ceremony took place on a crisp autumn morning. Sarah stood at attention as the general pinned the Navy Cross on her uniform, the second highest military decoration for valor, awarded for her actions during a classified mission 6 months prior. In the audience sat her team. Reaper, now a master sergeant, stood at attention with tears in his eyes he'd never admit to. Klaus had flown in from Germany, Pierre from France, Chen from Beijing. Victor had come out of retirement in Moscow to attend. Also present were 12 aid workers, the hostages from Somalia, alive because of an impossible shot made by a woman with a pink rifle. After the ceremony, a young reporter approached Sarah. "Captain Mitchell, there's been some discussion about your rifle choice being theatrical. Some critics say it undermines the seriousness of military operations. How do you respond?" Sarah looked at the reporter for a long moment. Then she smiled. Not the polite, professional smile, but a genuine warm expression. "Tell the critics that my pink rifle has 58 confirmed kills. Tell them it's made shots that military experts declared impossible. Tell them it saved hundreds of lives across 4 continents." She paused. "And tell them that if they can match that record with their perfectly camouflaged, traditionally acceptable weapons, I'll be happy to listen to their opinions." The reporter laughed. "That's a great quote, ma'am." "It's not a quote," Sarah replied. "It's a fact." As she walked away, Reaper fell into step beside her. "You know, they're going to keep questioning you, right? Keep trying to make you fit into their boxes." Sarah glanced at the pink rifle slung across her back, now a symbol recognized worldwide, featured in military journals, referenced in training manuals, worn as patches by young female soldiers who saw her as proof that they belonged. "Let them question," she said quietly. "Every question is an opportunity to educate, every doubt is a chance to demonstrate, and every impossible shot I make is another crack in the wall of assumptions that says, who can and can't be here." They walked together toward the vehicle waiting to take them to the next mission, the next challenge, the next impossible shot that everyone said couldn't be made. Behind them, the young sniper candidates from the training program watched their instructor depart. Several of them, male and female alike, touched their own weapons with renewed determination. They had seen the proof that excellence transcends expectation, that skill matters more than appearance, that the deadliest weapon on any battlefield isn't always the one that looks the most intimidating. Sometimes, it's the one nobody saw coming. Sometimes it's pink.